Hello and welcome to Money Tips. This is Charles Kelly. Well, this is one of those stories where people would say things like, "You just couldn't make it up." You've got the homelessness minister, the minister responsible for reducing homelessness, had to resign last week over one of her own tenants that she evicted and made homeless, and over this general hypocrisy of that action. The story goes that the former homelessness minister, Rushanara Ali, who was an MP, of course, as well, had to resign from a government job after it was revealed that she had evicted her tenants, claiming that she was selling the property, then put it on the market, shortly put it back off the market and listed it for rental at £700 per month more than the previous rent, a rise of 20%. Let me just share a screen with you here and you can see the whole story. Now, this this comes about as this minister then said, "Well, I haven't broken any rules." She said, "I haven't broken any rules. I've acted within the law." Yeah, of course, she's acted within the law as it stands. But they're bringing about a change in this law, which will make that practice illegal. In other words, she's doing the very thing that the government are going to ban landlords from doing from whenever this renters' rights bill eventually hits the statute books. In fact, under that rule, Labour wanted to impose a 12-month period where a landlord who said they were going to sell a property could not then put it back on the market for letting for 12 months. And the House of Lords, under pressure from among others, the National Landlords Association, have suggested amending that to 6 months, but it could end up as 12 months. And she was part of the government team that drafted these bills, which will end Section 21, what they call no fault eviction, and ban landlords from relisting their property for a period of either 6 or 12 months. I think what she's done is rank hypocrisy. It's the same old story. It's the government saying, "You do as I say, not as we do." And Labour came to power, but this is not the first time we've had hypocrisy from government ministers or MPs. Labour and the Conservatives have both had examples of this sort of sleaze. But Labour came to power, almost like holier than thou, saying they were going to end all of this sleaze. And yet you've had MP after MP, Sadiq Tulip Sadiq, who had to step down. She was the anti-corruption minister who was herself embroiled in a corruption scandal with some former ministers in Bangladesh. She had to step down. You had Keir Starmer accepting clothing from the clothing mogul, the billionaire clothing mogul, and glasses and suits and all these sorts of things. And and basically, even without those sorts of things, and of course there were tickets to Taylor Swift as well, but even without all those things, a lot of these MPs have got their noses firmly like pigs in the trough, just taking what they can get. They've got grace and favour houses. They've got all sorts of benefits. Now, as a minister, you get a higher salary than a normal member of parliament. She's still a member of parliament. The member of parliament is supposed to represent their constituents, and a minister is in the government, and they act for the government, and as well as being an MP, they've got really two hats, if you like. But she's lost a lot of money by this silly behaviour, by this rather greedy behaviour. And it was first revealed in the I newspaper. She repossessed her own rental property. It was in Bow in East London, where she lives, I think, and it was home to 4 tenants. So she put 4 tenants out of the house. Then she put it up for sale after that at 914,000. Had to reduce it this year to 894. So that's quite a big drop. And that's because the market at that level is suffering at the moment, as I reported last week. So for an MP who's spoken out about private renters being exploited by landlords, and the Labour government will empower people to challenge unreasonable rent increases, it doesn't look good, does it? All right, she hasn't broken any laws, but because there was so much scandal about this, she just said, "Well, I'm a distraction. I better just step down." So that's the story there. I think in some ways it's almost laughable, but in other ways you think, well, they are going to be really coming down on landlords next year, and this is why a lot of landlords are actually getting out of buy to let altogether. And I was at the National Landlord Show, and I saw a lot of landlords saying, well, they've just had enough of it. It's not only this renters' rights, but it's a series of things that they've had to contend with: new red tape, more intrusion, an extra stamp duty on buying properties, and more and more things, tax changes. The Section 24 tax changes brought in by the last government, George Osborne. So it's a culmination of things which have added to the landlord's woe, and a lot of them are saying. Now, by the way, if you're in that Section 24 trap, do get in touch. I'll leave a number you can get us on, or an email address you can get us on, and we've got some accountants who specialise in helping people with their properties in their own name, move them into limited companies without paying all the usual taxes. Don't ask me all the details. The accountants will give you a free consultation, and then you take it from there if you want to take their advice. But you don't have to sell, because of course if you sell, you've got the capital gains tax. So a lot of landlords are in between a rock and a hard place. They're fed up dealing with tenants, and they know they're going to have more problems next year. What happens if you get a rogue tenant? Touch wood, I haven't had real rogue tenants before. They're only a small percentage of tenants, but if you do get a real rogue tenant, they could cause you all sorts of problems, because this, mark my words, this legislation, getting people out under a Section 8 type of arrangement where you have to go to court and give a reason to remove them, is going to clog up the courts like you've never seen in your life. They're already clogged up the courts. You've got a huge backlog, and of course tenants know this, that the sly tenants know that it will take them ages to evict them, and they can sit there and probably not pay any rent in the meantime, and the landlord's out of pocket whatever happens, because they will skip off somewhere else and get another property somewhere, and the landlord's left to foot the bill, sometimes damage to the property as well. Okay, can we go back to some more good news now? That is, you've probably heard now by now that rates were cut last week to the lowest level in 2 years, which is good news, but only by 0.25%, down to 4%. That's the base rate that the Bank of England charge. There was talk about whether it was going to happen or not, because inflation is high. They wanted inflation down to 2%. That was their target, but it's still a bit high, and I think otherwise that's why they couldn't come down much more. The bank are expected to make two further 0.25% cuts, down to 3.5 by the end of the year. But whether this will happen or not, we don't know. Frankly, I don't know why they keep messing around with this 0.25%. There's Andrew Bailey there. I don't know why they keep messing around with a 0.25% here and there, because lenders, they're hardly reacting to these rates. Obviously, if you're on a variable rate, then yeah, your rate will come down by 0.25%. But whether it really affects the fixed rates or not, it is another matter. Sometimes the fixed rates don't really go down by that much with a 0.25% reduction. On savings, yeah, then they come down on savings, of course. They immediately tell you your saving rates are coming down. And when they're going up, of course, bang, the rates go up. The credit card rate goes up and everything. That's the sort of history of rates. Of course, we have many, many years of very low rates, close to zero there. And then they sort of shot up here, leveled out there, and they've been coming down and now stand at 4%. But what does this mean for your mortgage? What's next for mortgage rate? How long should you fix for? Well, there's all sorts of thoughts on this. I personally like to fix for 5 years, because you don't have to worry about it in 2 years again. Yeah, rates could be lower in 2 years, but they might not be. We don't know what's going to happen. A lot of these rate rises came about because of things that were happening outside of the UK, inflation going up because of the war, because of what happened before the war. The Ukraine war pushed up inflation to record heights. So it's not, and it could be because the market moves against the UK in some way. So you never know what will happen if there's a protracted war, another war. We just don't know what will happen. But rates, in theory, should come down in the next year or two. But I normally go for a 5-year fixed rate, because when you fix for 5 years, you don't have to worry about it for 5 years. You're not paying another fee and another broker fee, perhaps, to get you to move the rate. And quite frankly, it's a lot of hassle. It never used to be much hassle. But now it's becoming a major hassle. It's almost like you're this new first-time buyer that's never had a mortgage before, and you want to borrow 100% on your property, and they're going into everything, like bank statements, this and that, and go, and what about this bank? Why is this money moved from here and there? I want to see the previous bank statement. It's just an endless list of questions that they tick in their little boxes. So it has become a nightmare, despite the government saying they will make it a little bit easier for people. Here's some examples of fixed rate deals. And these are the lenders. I mean, this here is some of the top rates for home purchases for people buying their own homes, not buy to lets. 3.78 there. Quite low product fees on this, nationwide, Yorkshire, that sort of thing. So those are some of the fixed rates. They are. Let's have a look here. We'll do so 5-year fixed rate here. See if we can get some 5-year deals up here. Okay. I don't know if that's coming up properly here, but 3.93, so it's just under 4%. And if we're looking at buy-to-let rates, because a lot of you here are buy-to-let landlords, yeah, we've got higher rates there with companies like Molo Finance, but then they do go up to 85%. If you were looking at a lower loan to value, then we might see some better deals. Let's see if we can find some other deals here. Okay, it's just coming about the same, really. I mean, I think this thing is not really working very well. You've got some rates here. CHL, maximum 55%. Yeah, they'll give you a low rate if you've got a lot of equity there. Zephyr, some of these lenders frankly I've never heard of. Zephyr and Molo, but there's a lot of challenger banks coming into the market. The main high street lenders are not really that competitive in some of these rates. They cherry pick the best rates they want, and that's about it. But anyway, it's still pretty good news for people that want to. And Molo, by the way, go up. They do go up to 85%, which is good. You're probably going to pay a hefty fee there, which doesn't come up in this list here, but you probably will pay a little bit of a hefty fee. But if you want to borrow 85%, provided the rent stacks up as well. So there you go. There's some rates. There's good news on the interest rate front, and we hope that rates will come down again and people will be able to pay less on their mortgage. We know that every month, hundreds of thousands of people are coming off of existing fixed rates and getting the shock of their life when they find out what the new rate is. I mean, some of the rates on my buy-to-let properties doubled last time I refixed them after a 5-year period last year. So it was quite a big punch to the stomach really when they come in. But the mortgage and the equity, there was plenty of equity there, so it didn't matter. So there you go. Hope that's given you some information of what's going on there, and we will talk to you again in the next episode. In the meantime, if you're worried about Section 24, if you're having problems with your tax rate going up, your higher rate taxpayers, and you've got your properties in your own name, but you don't want to move into a limited company because you're going to have to pay all the taxes and capital gains tax, talk to us, drop me a line, and I'll put you directly in touch with the firm of accountants that specialise in this sort of work. They specialise in dealing with landlords, not just with Section 24, but with other problems, people who've got stamp duty reclaims, people who just want to know, should they have their properties in their own name or a limited company? How would they deal with the tax situation? How would it differ? And of course they give general tax advice as well, but they're particularly good at property, because a lot of accountants who are generalists, they're not specialised in one area. They won't always give you the best tips on how to reduce your tax if you're a landlord and property owner. In fact, a lot of them don't even tell you anything unless you ask them, could I claim this? Oh yes, you can. Why don't you tell me? Instead of just telling me at the end of the year, send me your figures and this is what this is how much tax you'll pay. They should be proactively telling you how you could save tax before you get to the end of the tax year, so that you can legally reduce your tax liability. Okay, thanks very much for now, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you. Bye for now.